Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pilates Exchange. I'm your host Hannah Teutscher, and
My name is Chris. Welcome. Hello to everyone.
so just a reminder, this podcast is everything about Pilates, teaching Pilates, and the business of Pilates, and we like to have interesting discussions from a lot of different perspectives, and the goal of this is not to give you any real answers, but to think about asking the right questions so you can make your own informed decisions on how you want to do things in your studio or in your teaching or how you even want to take classes. That's the
That's
whole
about
thing.
it. What are we going to talk about
So
today?
today, my subject that I picked out is that over the past week, we've been taking some classes in a different studio, not in our town, and it's been a really interesting experience to be on the other side again. It's been a little while since we've done this, and to kind of get that input of being just a client and noticing different things as they come up. So that's the perspective that we're talking about. It's been fun. It's been a fun week.
It's been 6 days, 6 classes.
Yeah, that's the way we like it.
It's fun.
And so one thing that I've been noticing is that there's like this hidden psychology behind taking classes what the clients are doing, and it's been a little bit more apparent to me in the last few classes, so I just wanted to chat about that. For example, in your studio, why do people always go to the same reformer? Just one example.
Why do people always want to be in the corner?
Why do people always want to go to the back of the room or the front of the room? So I find that to be really interesting because as we're strangers in this other studio, it's really interesting to notice our own choices, and we're the type of people that like to go around and just experience different parts of the room, and
Yeah, because I think we have a different perspective. We see things different than, let's say, a regular client. And for the people out there, we are, of course, good teachers, but we're also good students.
we try to be.
Yes, so we listen and do stuff and this.
Yeah.
But there's some other people cannot really be good students. They always go ahead and know the exercise, want to know the exercise and stuff like that. But that's not the topic. And why do you think that is?
Well, I think
People are.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it's just to always recognize that every person that comes into the room, they're bringing their own habits, their insecurities, and their experiences, their identity, their history, like all of that shapes who they are and how they're going to take class, just the same as you as a teacher will also like your interpretation of what their behaviors is depending on all of those things that I just listed out. So I think that's what makes it really really fascinating, that it's so complex. Well, do you?
Yeah, so maybe some people they made different experiences in different studios or before in their lives where they don't want to be the attention, but they don't want to be the center of attention. But some people have the tendency they want to be the center of the attention.
Yeah, and maybe it's not even that. It's like I think there's people that, it's not just about a preference. I think sometimes it is a preference. I just like this side, but I think some of it is like people prefer to be in familiar places. And I think that's because it just reduces the cognitive load. Like there's less decisions to make. It helps your nervous system to feel safe because you know it's coming. You know what the lighting is like, you know what the music is like, you know all of those things. Once you've found your spot, I think people tend to gravitate, and it leaves one uncertainty less. Like if you don't know what's going to be happening in the class, that's like one thing that you can control. What do you think? I mean, you and I always stood at the same spot in ballet class.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, I would probably this kind of person, student, client who would like to take always the same form at the same spot. Because also, like you said, in our dance career, every day we were standing at the same spot at the same bar. Some other colleagues, they were going around, and I somehow I like it. Also, I kept my habits before performance always the same, because I know that it worked. That gave me kind of always a little bit nervous. I mean, it's not before a class, or maybe some people are nervous right in front of a class, but me before a performance, that gave me like kind of the how would you call the confidence maybe, or the kind of you like a little ritual.
Yeah, it's one thing that you can control.
Yeah, so there was always like 10 minutes before was this one, half an hour this one, eating 3 hours before. So I was kind of the same one. I would probably also have the tendency going to the same reformer because I know what I have and I know what it is about. I know that also the other reformers will probably be the same, but you know.
But in this case, in this week, we challenged ourselves every time.
It was a different class.
It was a different class, different teacher, different time of day, and different reformer. The only thing that stayed the same is that we were always right next to each other.
Yes, that's true.
And maybe next time we'll have to go far apart from each other. But it's
no, maybe it's the only consistent. I mean, of course, when you go together into a studio, I mean, we could do that. I don't mind. But
we actually have another couple that trains at our studio that they'll take the same class, but they don't go next to each other, which I always find that really fascinating. So I don't really think it's a good or a bad thing. I think it's a habit that you get to be aware of. Like if I notice and I know the person well enough and I notice that they're taking always the same spot, I do occasionally challenge them to go someplace else. I don't force them to go someplace else, but I do ask them just to change it up because you notice different things, but
yeah, then for example, if you have a certain setup in your studio, let's say you have 8 reformers and then they're like in a row, and then you have just 6 people in the class, and then there are like 3 and 3 on each end, and you have like this gap in between, and you ask the people, can you just go to one side because it's easier as a teacher to teach this class? The people will be like, no, I want to stay on this reformer.
Yeah.
No, I like this one.
I mean, I did participate in a yoga class once, and I went in, I was new to the studio, and I put my mat down, and whenever someone moved my mat, they were like, you're in my spot. I'm like, whoa, that's intense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, you weren't even in the room. But okay, like, whatever. It's an interesting, for me, it makes no difference. But it is interesting how we, as people, claim our spots, whether it's a reformer or an area of the room. It's the same, you see that just as we move through space in general. It's my car belongs here on this parking spot, or on the road. It's the same thing. So I do find it interesting how we claim our space, and that becomes a little bit part of maybe identity.
I think we're just like creatures of habits, so we want the same. It gives us for example, also a different. It goes right into the topic in the morning. I just prepare my stuff when I have to get up early, so I don't have to think. I don't have to concentrate. Stuff's already there. So maybe people, they know when they come into the studio, they see, okay, I know everything is going, everything is the way it is, and this gives them maybe they're also nervous or they feel uncomfortable going to a studio with new people, new coach, new trainer, new equipment. But then I have the question that came to my head, now it came back, is if you, for example, like I said, you have a setup of 8 reformers in a row, and you take a class once on this one end of the reformer line and then the next class on the other one, do you think movement will feel different?
I think that you fundamentally pay attention differently in different spaces. I think it's different if you're on the end of a line, as opposed to the middle. I think there's security being in the middle. Sometimes there's, I do think that it changes the way that you pay attention. Just as much as like if in a big class, the front or the back of the room.
Yeah, it's like...
I love to be in the front of the room. I'm not a tall person. This is something that comes back from my dancing career. I'm not a tall person. So if there's a lot of other people in front of me, I might not see what's going on. And that's really stressful for me. So I also reduce distractions when I'm at the front. So I know exactly what's going on. It has less to do with like, oh, I want to be seen. Maybe a little bit when I was dancing, that was part of it. But now I want to know what's going on, whereas some people maybe would have something different at being at the front of the room, that they just need more attention,
Or they think they get more
or
attention.
they think they get more attention. And some people might feel like if they're at the back, that they're a little bit more hidden, a little bit more anonymous. Maybe they can some people can concentrate better.
Or they think in the back is they can hide a little bit, and the exercise will be easier because sometimes we do a little cheat here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe in a workout, and then some people they don't want the attention.
Yeah, that
They're
might
like,
be their better place. They might be
Yeah.
able to focus better at the back of the room, so that they maybe don't need to be. Maybe they understand visually what's going on, like the cueing. If they can, latch on to someone that's in front of them, that could be also a great reason to be in the more towards the back.
Yeah, what we try to do then, or what we maybe my recommendation would be, if you're in a new studio, a new setup, a new trainer, and you then go put yourself in the middle. That when you, for example, have someone on the right side or the left side, you just can follow.
No.
Can follow easier. You can then, or maybe in the second row, not in the front row, if there are two rows or something like that.
And I think if you are in your own studio space and you have the opportunity to take classes, I do think it's really important to try out different spaces, different places within it, because you'll notice sometimes the echo is different. It's acoustically just a different experience, or the sight line is not as clear. And so that's something that we also need to be aware of when we're teaching classes. We just took a class it was super interesting, in a yurt, like this round space, which I loved.
It was the first time for me in New York.
I mean, if I have my
you like that.
I loved it. So, like, if you see me in 10 years with a yurt, you'll know why. Remember this conversation. But what was really interesting that we both picked up on is, as the teacher was going through the space, the acoustics were changing, and like sometimes there was more of an echo. It was super interesting.
Maybe can you explain for 1 second what a yurt is for the people that are not familiar?
Okay, yeah. So a yurt is like in this case, it was like it's a round room, and on the outside is more of like a tent type of thing, and then a pitched roof. And in this one, there was a skylight at the top of the rooftop. But the deciding factor of a yurt is the roundness of it. And the teacher did fantastic. She was lovely.
So it was more or less like a circus, tiny circus.
It was like
tent.
a mini circus tent, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because without being in that space, I would have never imagined how different it would sound as she's walking through.
Then maybe that's also for the teachers, that, like what you said, that you take a class in your own studio if you have other teachers, and then experience that maybe the acoustic is there better than on the other side. Is also good for the other teacher to give them the feedback. Maybe when you say something, you have to put yourself towards the people or away, or here's the acoustic better than on the other side.
And another thing about that specific space, which is something I just find interesting in general, the teacher did a great job of walking around and paying attention to everyone. But this particular space, the yurt, it was raised up, and that meant that her footsteps are actually quite loud. She's a tiny little person, but quite loud footsteps. So in the beginning, she was walking around, and it was actually hard to hear just because of her footsteps. So I find it interesting. Like, that is nothing bad about her. I'm just saying that there's, in every room that we're teaching in, there's different things that we can pay attention to. This episode is brought to you by Offering Tree, the all-in-one platform for Pilates studio owners. Website, scheduling, memberships, automations, reporting, with human customer support and a community that cares. Here's what Lauren, a Pilates studio owner, has to say about it.
Hi, friend. My name is Lauren. I run a group reformer Pilates studio, and we've been running just over 2 years. Everyone else complains about them booking systems with the lack of customer service. So the good customer service is surprising, and maybe it's rare. They're super helpful. They always get back to me really fast. It was surprisingly easy if you've never made a website before to use all the template features. You just pop it all in. I am using the automation feature more, just to have a stream of emails and some information going out, because nobody really reads the terms and conditions when they sign up to the membership. I use the reporting features all the time, especially like membership numbers, holds weekly numbers, monthly numbers, and I use the email communication system every day. I don't really have to think about anything. I just arrive to class, open my app, and everything works well. The right people are there and I check them in, and it's easy. With what everyone else says about their booking systems, it seems like I made the right choice.
Book a free demo with the Offering Tree team at offeringtree.com/Pilates Exchange. They'll walk you through everything one-on-one. Let them know that Pilates Exchange sent you for a free trial and an exclusive listener discount. Another thing that did you want to add?
No, you can.
So something else that I was observing in myself and the way that we're taking classes and observing the people that were around us in the space is that people have feelings about like springs. Like
you mean the springs of the reformer, or you mean summer, winter?
No, like reformer spring.
Okay.
Like there's somehow maybe it was just the setup of this space, but like adding more resistance seems like sometimes there's a push to do that, even though like, do you know what I'm saying? Like there's like a, if the teacher says, oh, add more, it'll be harder, then they're like adding more.
It's like at the gym when someone picking up the 18 kilo weight, the dumbbells, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it too.
And so I find it interesting because sometimes that's a good thing. Like you want to get your resistance on, like that's the point of the workout. And sometimes, of course, we all know less resistance will sometimes be harder depending on the exercise.
The hidden challenge,
The hidden challenge. But it was just interesting to notice that you and I will always take the harder version, like 90% of the time.
I want to experience it.
Yeah.
And to see and decide for myself, okay, today is not my time. Today I don't want to feel like pushing what I want to just see, okay, then I can take it off.
Yeah.
But sometimes also resistance doesn't mean it's going to get harder.
That's true. But, what I appreciated about the way that we did all the suggestions of the teacher. So you want to, get a little bit harder, try this out, and then this is how you modify. And so I think we both did try a little bit harder and then also tried the modifications in a lot of the exercises just for the experience.
Yeah, just to see.
By day 6, I was like, modify me. I'm done.
Honestly, that was also interesting when we talk about this one, that I thought, okay, every day a 50-minute class, I was like, I don't know if we're going to make it, but I found a lot. It depends because there were different classes, and it depends on, sometimes we had a longer recovery because we did a morning class, the next day an evening class. We had 1.5 days of recovery. Sometimes I took an evening class, the next day a morning class because of time purpose. And then it was like kind of no recovery time. And I was like, so interesting to feel that how fast the body is recovering actually.
Yeah, and how different body parts recovered quicker.
I had the feeling, of course, the bigger muscles like the quads, they recovered faster, but also the obliques and stuff, they were relatively fast. Mm-hmm. They were like they needed like a little push every day, and then they're like, okay, I need to recover. That was interesting. I thought I was never going to make it until the end, but I found the last class the easiest.
Yeah.
But you see, it's just like I found the third or the fourth the hardest.
But in any case, the point is it's interesting, like sometimes harder is not more productive, and just to notice, our own choices as we're making it and as the teacher is suggesting things, and why do we choose to go up or down. It's not rocket science. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is interesting to notice as a teacher what your own tendencies are, and how you frame it. It makes a big difference on what your clients are going to be doing. And mm-hmm. The other thing that I noticed was how comparison is, like, human beings they compare. This is how we learn sometimes, and that we compare ourselves, like in the room, like after classes, we got people that we don't know coming up, oh, you did so great, and that doesn't. It was just interesting because it's not attention that we were seeking out, but it's interesting that it was there because it just meant that comparison was there. And you guys who listen to this, that we're always trying to create a positive or leave a positive environment wherever we're at. But the comparison was interesting because it wasn't just like, oh, you're so strong. It was, and maybe not not necessarily in these classes, but just in general. It could be comparison about how flexible someone is, how good their balance is, the strength. It could be body shape. It could be, all the different things. And I don't think that this means that people are shallow or vain so much. I just think it's the
just notice it.
Yeah, I think it's noticing, and I think it's comparison to learn. At its most benign is like, am I doing this right? Can I do this okay?
Yeah, I think it's also if people have time during the class to look around or to notice. Of course, you notice what your neighbor is doing next to you, if the person is having a hard time, and then you just see that the person is actually really strong. Was doing this exercise, maybe where you had to take a pause, the other person did not, were pushing through, and you notice that what's going on. And some people, they have the time in between to look around. Some people are so busy with themselves, with their coordination, to figure it out, and some people, they don't want to. It's their me time. Yep. It's just they want to be by themselves and enjoy the moment. And then we should also let that.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that when we're comparing like our inside experience, like how we've experienced the movement, to someone else's external experience, like how someone else has portraying the movement on the outside. I think that's, we found these classes to be very difficult, but just because of our dance background, we are trained not to show difficulty that often. So you're not going to see it. We'll see focus on our faces.
We have our poker face.
We have our poker faces on. So, that doesn't mean that it wasn't hard. And that's what we were talking to our newfound friends in the studio. Because, it looks so easy. It wasn't easy. There was nothing easy about this, the last few classes, but just the way that we take class is So I think that's a good reminder for all of us, even, also on the teaching side of it. Just because someone has not showing it on their face or not huffing and puffing doesn't mean they're not getting a great workout.
Or they're not struggling, or they're not getting challenged enough. This just some people, they don't want to show it. Maybe people can show it. Some people want to show it. That it's so difficult.
Yeah. Why do you think some people push too hard in a class? And I mean, this also begs the question of what's too hard, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Maybe they push too hard because they have the feeling that they have to catch up with something. Maybe sometimes it's like what happened to me is like, okay, I had a couple of days I didn't have the time to do my workout, so the first 5 minutes I want to get everything in, but it's the wrong thing because the class is 50 minutes, not 5 to 10 minutes, and you're going to be already tired, and then that makes no sense to take the rest of the class where you're just fighting with fatigue. So maybe some people, they need to kind of push themselves. There's some people need to feel that it has to be difficult, it has to be hard in order to be effective.
Sometimes I feel like I definitely push beyond what's comfortable because I have to prove it to myself.
And for me, I like to experience it and to see it like kind of an adventure. But on the other side, sometimes what I like is, sometimes you have these thoughts and things in your head and they cause emotions. And some of these emotions are not happy emotions. They're just kind of a little bit negative, let's say dark. And for me, movement helps to get rid of them. It's like kind of my energy source. And then when you, for example, you go out on the street and then run for 2 minutes as fast as you cannot think about anything else anymore. You don't have the energy for it. What helps me, I use this time to get rid of them, to reset, basically. That what helps me, and that's what should people actually not trying to catch up in the class, not trying to push harder, not trying to. I mean, if you want to win the next marathon and you want to run it in less than 2 hours, of course you have to go into the points, but it just has to then it has to be a different training. It's not the point right now, because we just have to look for our own mental health. Some people do it physical, some people do it mental. It's just different. But
so I think like pushing hard in classes, I don't think that there's a problem with pushing too hard, and I don't, or pushing hard, not too hard is a
too much or not enough. That's the question.
Well, and then there's the opposite of it, is like, why do some people under challenge themselves?
Because maybe they don't think they can do it.
Right. Sometimes the win is just showing up You know, like they got there, they did it, and that is the bigger win, and that we should celebrate. Sometimes I think it's because people are in pain and they're just discovering like what works for them, or discomfort, mental discomfort. You know, there's also the opposite side of what you're saying. Like you like to push relatively intense when you are working through emotional discomfort, and that's how you regulate. And I think that there's also the opposite that is equally as valid. So that when we're teaching our classes, you know, as the teacher, you know, you're in a judgment-free zone, right? You're just observing and seeing.
You just have to be careful and watch out for if it gets dangerous for the person.
Yeah, well, yeah, both.
That's the
both
only thing. Yeah.
over and then you know, underperforming would be like, you know, we want to try to give them an appropriate enough challenge where they're going to see the results that you had promised them.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I guess, you know, like from our experience this last week, you know, being on the other side, and then, you know, our deep discussions, you know, in the time after these classes, our job as teachers is not to really judge the patterns. Our job is probably just to notice like what's going on in the classes, just to get curious about all these types of things, and to create places where our clients can explore challenges. Yeah, because teaching is never just about the exercises.
I mean, you can do the exercise, but then you're just like a machine.
Yeah.
You just say the exercise, you cannot adapt, you cannot change it, you cannot kind of make it fit, make it flow for the people who are in front of you.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's like the same thing. There's no right and no wrong. It's just what we experience in our teaching.
Yeah. I think that sometimes it's about building trust, you know, helping someone build trust to themselves. And some people need the encouragement to push. Some people need the permission to slow down. Some people need the suggestion to come to the front of the room, or the permission to stay in the back of the room. You know, there's all those things, and they're all playing in. Again, no right or wrong, but just yeah. I think the fun thing is just, as you're noticing, you know, noticing things that are happening in the room, it's also to check in as the teacher, like, what do you do? What's your tendency? And it makes it interesting.
Definitely. Yeah. It was an interesting topic. Maybe not like as important, but sometimes the ones you think are not so important are also important.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, then, my friends, we will see you in the next round. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and we're wishing you guys happy teaching and happy Pilates, or whatever you decide to do this week.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.